He stopped for flowers to propose, then saw his ex with twin girls who looked exactly like him. Nathan Blake had always lived by plans, calculated, strategic, flawlessly timed. He was the golden boy of tech entrepreneurship, a self-made millionaire before 30, and a name investors didn't just respect, but feared. His entire schedule was built down to the minute, and today was no different. Everything had been set: the ring in his coat pocket, the private dinner reservation, the soft proposal speech he had practiced twice that morning. By evening, he was supposed to be engaged to Christine, the face of a luxury fashion brand and the woman everyone assumed was the perfect match for a man like him. He wasn't nervous about the proposal, at least not in the traditional sense. He liked control. He liked when life aligned. This marriage was supposed to be the next logical step, the merger of two perfect lives. But there was a restlessness under his skin as he drove through the city, something he didn't want to acknowledge. He told himself it was adrenaline, excitement. Just nerves. The florist he stopped at wasn't on the itinerary. He passed it by chance, a small storefront nestled between a bakery and an old bookstore, with a crooked sign that read, H. Bloom and Company. The shop was nothing special from the outside, a little worn around the edges, like the kind of place that hadn't changed in years. He almost kept driving. But at the last second, something pulled him in. Maybe he wanted the lilies. Maybe he wanted a break from perfection. Maybe he just needed a moment to breathe. When he stepped inside, the bell above the door chimed, soft and nostalgic. The air was warm, humid from the plants, and filled with the fragrance of earth and jasmine. He barely had time to take it in before he saw her. She was bent over a bucket of white roses, her brown hair pulled into a messy knot at the back of her neck, a pencil tucked behind one ear. She wore a plain apron dusted with pollen and soil, and when she looked up, Nathan felt his pulse stop. It was Haley. His Haley. Or at least, the woman who used to be. Time slammed to a halt. In the 6 years since they'd last spoken, Nathan had convinced himself she belonged to another life, a younger, simpler version of himself. Seeing her now, so real, so close, unraveled that lie in an instant. Her eyes met his, and something unreadable flashed through them. Not shock. Not joy. Just recognition, and then the flicker of a wall sliding into place. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice calm, like they'd never been anything more than strangers. He opened his mouth to speak, but then two small voices rang out behind her. "Mommy, we finished the little roses." Nathan's head turned automatically. Two little girls, identical in every feature, peeked around the flower cart, each holding a tiny watering can. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. 5, maybe 6 years old. Dressed in matching pink overalls, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. They looked like they'd been playing in petals and dirt all morning. They looked like him. Something inside Nathan buckled. He stared as the girls ran to Haley's side. She crouched and touched each of their foreheads with such natural tenderness that it punched the air right out of his lungs. She whispered something to them, and they giggled before skipping off toward the back of the shop. Nathan hadn't moved. His heart pounded in his ears. His thoughts screamed over each other, fighting to catch up to what his eyes had already confirmed. They were his. They had to be. The age lined up. The resemblance was undeniable. But no one had called him Daddy. No one had said his name. It was like he was invisible in a life that should have been partly his. "Still want the lilies?" Haley asked, her tone even, but her eyes sharp. He blinked, realizing he hadn't said a word since walking in. Automatically, he nodded. She moved to the cooler and picked out a small but perfect bunch, wrapped them in brown paper, and tied them with twine. The whole time, she didn't ask how he'd been. She didn't demand an explanation. She didn't look angry. She looked resolved. When she handed him the bouquet, their fingers brushed briefly. It felt electric, then gone. Nathan took the flowers, paid without saying more than a quiet thank you, and walked out of the shop like a man sleepwalking. He got into his car. The ring in his coat pocket felt heavier than it had that morning. He was supposed to be heading to Christine, to champagne and candlelight and a carefully curated yes. Instead, he sat in the parking space outside a flower shop, staring at the closed door, his mind replaying one image on a loop: Haley, surrounded by flowers, and two little girls with his eyes and her strength. He never made it to dinner. He didn't call Christine. He didn't even drive home right away. Because in that moment, Nathan Blake, the man who had everything, realized there was an entire life he'd missed, and it had been growing just fine without him. The following days passed in a haze that Nathan couldn't shake. He went through the motions: meetings, investor calls, product updates, but his focus was fractured. Numbers blurred on screens, voices faded into background noise, and every spare second in between was haunted by the memory of Haley and the twin girls in that flower shop. The resemblance wasn't something he could dismiss. It wasn't just in their features, it was in their energy, their expressions, even the shape of their smiles. He had spent his entire adult life mastering the art of logic, of clear decisions and cause and effect thinking, but now he was caught in something completely outside his control. And the weight of it was suffocating. He hadn't told anyone, not Christine, not his assistant, not even the mentor who had become like a second father. He couldn't. Because if he said it out loud, it would be real, and he wasn't ready for that truth. He'd walked away from Haley years ago thinking it was for the best, thinking his ambition couldn't coexist with love. He had told himself she deserved someone better, someone who wouldn't be buried in deadlines and ambition. But deep down, he knew the truth was simpler and uglier: he had been afraid. Afraid of commitment, of being vulnerable, of building something that couldn't be managed through a spreadsheet. Now he had proof of what he left behind: two small, undeniable pieces of himself he hadn't even known existed. And worse, Haley had raised them on her own. She had done it without reaching out, without asking for a dime, without publicly outing him. It wasn't pride, it was strength. And it terrified him. By Friday, he couldn't take it anymore. He cancelled his morning meetings, ignored Christine's texts, and found himself once again in front of the same flower shop. This time, he didn't walk in with a script. He had no idea what he was going to say, only that he couldn't walk away again. Haley looked up the moment the bell above the door rang. Her expression didn't change. She was wearing a different apron today, one with a faint lavender print, and her hair was pulled into a loose braid that made her look even younger than he remembered. The girls weren't visible, which gave him a small sense of relief. This conversation wasn't one they should overhear. "You came back," she said, not with surprise but with a certain tired awareness, like she had known this was inevitable. "I need to talk to you," he said quietly. "Privately." She studied him for a long moment, as if weighing the risks of reopening a door she had long since bolted shut. Then she nodded toward the back room. 5 minutes. I have deliveries coming in soon." The back room was small but tidy, filled with buckets of stems, a battered wooden table, and the scent of fresh greenery. Haley closed the door behind them and leaned against the wall with her arms crossed. She didn't offer him a seat. Nathan hesitated, then exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Are they mine?" Her eyes narrowed just slightly, not with malice, but with the sharpness of someone who had carried too much alone for too long. "You really want to start there?" I have to know." "Yes," she said, simply. "They're yours." The words hit him like a freight train, even though he had already known. Still, hearing it was something else. It shifted the ground beneath him. "They're 5?" he asked. "They turned 5 last month," she replied. "Their names are Lily and Sophie." Nathan sat down slowly on the edge of the table, suddenly lightheaded. Why didn't you tell me? Haley's laugh was bitter, quiet. Tell you what, Nathan? That the man who vanished overnight, who chose his company over a future with me, had fathered twins? You think I didn't want to? I did. But you didn't leave a forwarding address. You didn't even leave a goodbye. And once I realized you'd gone for good, I made a decision. I wasn't going to chase you down to make you a father if you weren't ready to be one. He dropped his gaze, ashamed. I was scared. I know, she said softly. But I was scared too. And I didn't get to walk away from that fear. I had to carry it. Every day. Through the pregnancy, through the nights when they both screamed for hours, through the bills and the loneliness and the doubt. I did it. Not because I was a hero, but because there was no other choice. Nathan looked up at her, his voice barely above a whisper. I want to know them. Haley didn't answer right away. Her eyes searched his face like she was looking for something, truth, maybe, or regret, or change. I'm not going to stop you, she finally said. But don't you dare come into their lives unless you plan to stay. I won't let them be heartbroken by someone who only visits when it's convenient. They don't know who you are yet. To them, you were just a nice customer who bought flowers. If this is just about guilt or curiosity, walk away now. Spare them. It's not that, Nathan said, shaking his head. I didn't know, Haley. But now I do. And I can't forget it. I want to be in their lives. I don't care how long it takes, I'll earn it. She didn't nod. She didn't smile. She just studied him in silence. Then the door creaked open, and two small faces peeked in. Mommy, the delivery truck is here. Sophie announced, her cheeks flushed from running. Haley turned to them. Okay, I'll be right there. The girls looked at Nathan curiously, sensing something, but saying nothing. When they disappeared again, Nathan stood, his legs stiff. I'll come back, he said. Only if you want me to. Haley opened the door and walked past him. We'll see, she said over her shoulder. Time will tell if you mean it. Nathan left the flower shop for the second time in a week, but this time, something was different. The first time, he had walked out a stranger. Now, he was a father. Not yet in their eyes, but in truth. And that truth would change everything. Nathan began returning to the flower shop every few days, careful not to overwhelm or push too hard. Each visit was quiet, deliberate, and filled with a sense of cautious hope. He didn't demand conversations or explanations. He simply showed up. Sometimes he bought a bouquet, sometimes he asked about certain plants, and other times he just sat on the wooden bench outside the store, sipping coffee and watching the world pass. Haley didn't welcome him with warmth, but she didn't send him away either. That, in itself, felt like progress. The twins, Sophie and Lily, remained unaware of who he truly was, but the connection between them was undeniable. They were drawn to him, and he to them, in a way that neither logic nor time could erase. On his fourth visit, Sophie ran up to him with a dandelion crown she had made and insisted he wear it on his head like a flower king. Nathan, who once negotiated million-dollar deals without blinking, found himself crouching in the dirt, proudly wearing a crooked ring of weeds made by a little girl with sparkling blue eyes. Lily joined in, declaring him officially part of the garden. That moment cracked something open in him that he hadn't realized was still closed. Haley watched all of this unfold from behind the counter. Her gaze lingered longer now, and though her posture remained guarded, there was a softness creeping in. Nathan didn't ask her questions about the past. He knew he didn't have the right. Instead, he started learning about the present, how Sophie loved painting flowers with her fingers and always mixed purple and yellow together because it makes magic, and how Lily liked lining up all the plant labels in perfect rows and hated when her sister moved even one of them. He memorized their favorite snacks, their giggle patterns, the way they both scrunched their noses when confused. He collected these pieces silently, treasuring every new discovery as if they were rare jewels. One afternoon, after helping the girls sort tulip bulbs, Nathan stayed behind as Haley closed up the shop. She didn't speak at first, just swept the floor and tidied the workspace, but then she looked at him with a curious expression. "You really didn't know," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. "No," he replied. "And I'll regret that for the rest of my life." Haley leaned against the counter, arms crossed, her face unreadable. "They're good kids. Strong. Kind. But they've never had a dad. And they never asked why. I guess I always hoped that if I just kept things normal, they'd never feel the hole." Nathan stepped closer, his voice steady but thick. "I'm not asking you to erase what I missed. I know I can't just walk in and make up for 5 years. But I'm here now. And I don't want to be someone they barely know." She looked down at the floor for a long moment, then back up at him. "They trust easily. It's one of the best things about them, and one of the hardest. Don't be the reason they stop believing in people." "I won't," he said without hesitation. That weekend, Nathan offered to help deliver flowers for a wedding. It was one of the shop's busiest events of the year, and Haley was overwhelmed with logistics. She hesitated at first, reluctant to mix him into her business, but after a moment of deliberation, she handed him a clipboard and a van key. "If you break anything," she warned, "you're paying full price." Nathan grinned. "Deal." What she didn't expect was that he'd show up not just as muscle, but as someone who actually cared. He carried arrangements like they were fragile treasures, followed the checklist meticulously, and even charmed the anxious bride's mother when a last-minute change caused a brief panic. When they returned late that evening, exhausted but satisfied, Haley looked at him differently. Not like a ghost from the past, but a man trying, truly trying, to belong in her present. The twins were asleep in the back room, curled up on a blanket nest of stuffed animals and coloring books. Nathan knelt beside them, adjusting Lily's blanket and brushing a strand of hair from Sophie's forehead. The sight of them sleeping so peacefully, so trustingly, brought tears to his eyes. He wasn't sure if Haley noticed, but she said nothing, simply stood behind him in silence. As he stood up, she finally asked, "What made you stop that day?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" "The day you walked in here," she clarified. "It wasn't on your schedule, was it? You don't seem like the type to wander into small flower shops by accident." Nathan smiled faintly. "I was on my way to propose. I stopped for flowers. And then I saw you. Everything changed in 1 second." Haley absorbed that, nodding slowly. "Funny how life works." "I canceled the dinner. Never gave her the ring," he admitted. For the first time, Haley didn't hide her expression. It was surprise, confusion, maybe even a trace of hope. She looked away quickly, but Nathan saw it. That night, as he left the shop and walked down the quiet street under the amber glow of the street lamps, he realized something profound. He had spent his life chasing things that made him feel powerful. Now, for the first time, he was chasing something that made him feel whole. And this time, he wasn't going to run. It was a warm Sunday morning when Nathan arrived at the flower shop and found something different waiting for him. The front door was propped open, sunlight pouring through the windows and casting golden streaks across the wood floor, and laughter echoed from the back garden. He followed the sound instinctively, unsure if he was even invited but too drawn in to care. What he saw made his breath catch. Sophie and Lily were crouched in the grass, their tiny hands covered in dirt, carefully planting something in mismatched ceramic pots. Haley knelt beside them, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, sleeves rolled up to her elbows, smiling gently as she guided their hands. Nathan didn't speak. He stood quietly by the gate, watching the three of them in their quiet joy. It felt like a window into a life that could have been his all along if he hadn't let fear control him. Eventually, Lily spotted him and waved enthusiastically. "Mr. Nate. Want to help us plant fairy carrots?" He grinned and stepped into the yard, squatting beside them. "Fairy carrots, huh? That sounds like high-level gardening." "They're just regular carrots," Sophie whispered dramatically, "but we say they're fairy carrots so they grow faster. That's the secret." Haley shot him a glance then, something between amusement and warning, but she didn't stop him. For the next hour, Nathan let himself fall into the rhythm of their world, digging soil, pretending to hear fairies whispering in the wind, and getting scolded by Lily for not spacing the seeds properly. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about business plans or investor pressure. He was just there, knees in the dirt, laughter in his chest, surrounded by the family he was only beginning to understand. Later that afternoon, as the girls napped inside, Haley poured them each a glass of lemonade and sat with him on the small patio bench. Her posture was more relaxed than usual, the set of her shoulders looser, but Nathan could still feel the distance between them. It wasn't coldness, it was caution. She wasn't protecting herself, she was protecting her daughters. "I've been thinking," she said after a long pause, "about what it would actually mean to let you in. I don't mean for an afternoon or a couple weekends a month. I mean, really in their lives. Their world. Mine." Nathan nodded, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. "I've been thinking about it too." She turned toward him slightly, her expression unreadable. "I don't need your money, Nathan. I've been doing this on my own for 5 years. If this is some kind of guilt-driven offer to fix things with a check, please don't." "That's not what this is," he said firmly. "I know I can't undo what I did, or what I didn't do. I missed their first steps. I wasn't there for the late nights or the school plays or the fevers. But I want to be here now. I want to know them. I want them to know me." Haley looked away, toward the garden, her jaw tightening for just a moment. "You don't get to show up and take the easy parts. You don't get the cute moments and the birthday parties if you can't be here for the tantrums and the homework and the days when everything goes wrong. I need to know that if they fall in love with you, you won't disappear." "I won't," he said, and this time there was no hesitation, no corporate polish, no performance. Just truth. She was quiet again. Then she nodded slowly. "Then let's take it slow. No titles. No big announcements. Just time." Over the next few weeks, Nathan became a regular presence. Not just at the shop, but in their lives. He picked the girls up from preschool when Haley was overwhelmed. He learned their routines, their favorite breakfast cereals, which stuffed animal went everywhere with them, the exact way Sophie liked her shoelaces tied. He discovered Lily was afraid of thunderstorms and started calling her during rainy nights just to tell her stories until she fell asleep. It was awkward sometimes, and messy, and exhausting, but it was real. One evening, while cleaning up after closing, Haley handed him a small envelope with a hesitant look. Inside was a crayon drawing of 4 stick figures, 2 adults and 2 children, standing in front of a flower shop. One of the adult figures had blonde hair. "Sophie made it," she said quietly. "She said it was her real family picture. I didn't tell her to do it." Nathan stared at the drawing for a long time, something tight and overwhelming blooming in his chest. He folded it carefully and placed it in his wallet without a word. They didn't talk about the future after that. Not yet. They didn't use words like family or together or us. But in the quiet spaces, between shared chores, whispered goodnights, and the smell of warm soil, they were slowly building something. A fragile, uncertain beginning. And for the first time in his adult life, Nathan didn't want to rush to the finish line. He just wanted to be there, every step of the way. Nathan had finally found a rhythm, one that no longer depended on board meetings or press releases but instead flowed with after-school pickups, flower shop deliveries, and bedtime stories told over the phone when he couldn't be there in person. His days, once meticulously segmented by his assistant, now revolved around the unpredictability of two 5-year-olds who could turn a trip to the grocery store into an adventure or an emotional crisis. But he loved it. He embraced the mess of it, the softness it brought out in him, and the quiet satisfaction of being present in a way he never had before. Haley had begun to trust him more, not completely, not yet, but enough to let him take the girls out on his own. They went to the park together, to a little science museum, and even to a puppet show that he barely survived, thanks to Sophie's habit of loudly correcting the puppets when they got their animal facts wrong. The mornings were his favorite. Sometimes he'd show up early with coffee for Haley and muffins for the girls, and they'd sit on the curb outside the shop before the day began. Lily would talk about her dreams, always filled with animals and flying trees, while Sophie tried to convince Nathan to invest in a lemonade stand they hadn't even built yet. He'd smile, nod, ask follow-up questions. These little conversations, fleeting and chaotic, grounded him more than any corporate strategy ever had. But that peace didn't last. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything nearly unraveled. Nathan had just returned from a delivery when he saw her, Christine. Standing outside the flower shop in 6-inch heels and a designer coat, looking entirely out of place amid the buckets of tulips and wooden crates. Her arms were crossed, her expression sharp, and when she spotted him through the glass, she pushed open the door like she owned the building. Haley looked up from the counter, confused. "Can I help you?" she asked cautiously. Christine's eyes didn't leave Nathan. "I'm here for him." Nathan froze. His past and present had just collided, and it was loud and stunning and messy. "Christine, not here," he said quickly, trying to step outside with her, but she wouldn't budge. "Oh, we're doing this now, Nathan. Because I've been patient. I gave you space. But you disappeared off the face of the earth, and now I find out through a mutual friend that you're playing house in some flower shop with your ex and her kids?" Haley's face shifted immediately. "Excuse me," she said, her voice suddenly hard. Christine turned to her. "You didn't know? He was supposed to propose to me the day he walked in here. We were engaged in everything but name. And now he's what, pretending to be father of the year?" Nathan stepped between them. "Stop. Both of you. This isn't what it looks like." Christine's voice was cold. "Then explain it." Haley's jaw was clenched so tight he thought it might crack. "You were engaged?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was going to propose, yes. But I didn't. Because I saw you. I saw them." "Everything changed that day," he said, desperate for her to believe him. Haley didn't respond. She just walked into the back room without another word, leaving Christine standing in silence and Nathan too stunned to move. The girls came out a few moments later, holding drawings they had made. Sophie proudly held one up to Nathan. "It's you and us at the zoo," she said brightly. Christine's expression crumbled when she saw it. She looked at Nathan one more time, something bitter in her eyes, then turned and left without saying anything else. That night, Nathan returned to the shop after closing. He knocked on the back door like a stranger, unsure if he would even be allowed in. Haley answered, not angry but tired. There was something deeper in her expression now, not betrayal, but heartbreak. "You should have told me," she said quietly, arms folded over her chest. "Not just about her. About all of it." "I was scared," he admitted. "I thought that if I told you everything too soon, I'd ruin it. That if I explained how messy my life was, you'd shut the door before I had a chance to make things right. Haley sat down on the old bench beside the wall of tools. I'm not mad that you had someone else. I'm mad that you didn't trust me enough to be honest. I do trust you, he said quickly, sitting beside her. I'm still learning how to be honest. Not just with you, with myself. I thought success meant keeping everything perfect and polished. But life isn't like that. You've known that longer than I have. She didn't speak for a while. The silence stretched, and he didn't try to fill it. Finally, she said, the girls asked where you went today. I told them you had a meeting. I'm not going anywhere, he said. Not unless you ask me to. Haley turned to him, eyes tired but clear. If you want to stay in our lives, Nathan, you have to show them that love isn't something that walks out when it gets hard. You have to prove to them that people can be flawed and still stay. He nodded. I will. For the first time since the explosion earlier that day, she leaned into him, not fully, not with her whole weight, but enough that he could feel it. A sign of trust, fragile and real. He didn't try to kiss her. He didn't try to make promises. He just stayed beside her in the quiet, knowing that rebuilding something real was going to take time, effort, and everything he had left to give. Nathan didn't expect forgiveness to come quickly, and he didn't ask for it. What he did instead was show up. Every morning, every afternoon, even when the air between him and Haley felt too quiet, too tense, he kept coming. He watered plants, swept the shop floors, made runs to the supply store without being asked, and left fresh coffee at the counter with her usual order written on the lid in shaky pen. The twins welcomed him back with the same unfiltered joy they always had, but Haley took her time. He understood. Trust, once broken, wasn't glued back together with apologies. It was stitched slowly through consistency. Christine didn't return, but the damage she left behind lingered. Haley had questions she didn't voice, and Nathan felt them in the way she moved around him, carefully, deliberately, as if waiting to see if this version of him would vanish too. But something shifted the morning he arrived early and found Haley sitting alone in the back garden, wrapped in a cardigan, her face drawn. She didn't hear him at first. When she turned to look at him, her eyes were wet but clear. They had a school event yesterday, she said quietly. A little art show. Parents were invited. I didn't tell you because I didn't know if you should be there. I thought it might confuse them. But when I got there and saw all the other kids with two parents standing beside them, I don't know. I felt selfish. Like I was keeping something from them. Nathan sat beside her without hesitation. You were protecting them. I thought I was, she whispered. But maybe I was just protecting myself. He didn't respond right away. The air smelled like damp earth and lavender. Haley, I want to be there. Not just for the fun stuff. For the hard things, too. I want them to know they're not half-loved. I want you to know that, too. Her eyes searched his face for a moment, as if testing the sincerity behind his words. Then she gave a small nod, and for the first time, invited him into something that mattered. The next week, she forwarded him the girls' school calendar and invited him to their next parent-teacher meeting. He showed up early, wearing a shirt Sophie had picked for him because it was the color of blueberries, and sat in a chair far too small for him, listening carefully while the teacher talked about how Lily was already reading at a second-grade level and Sophie had an imagination that wouldn't quit. Afterward, the girls drew a congrats picture for themselves and made him hang it in his car. But Nathan wasn't content with just being present, he wanted to give back in a bigger way, to prove he had grown not only as a father, but as a man. One night, long after the shop had closed, he stayed up sketching out an idea he hadn't been able to shake. He remembered Haley once telling him how hard it had been to find affordable suppliers and how complicated managing inventory was while also raising twins. He thought about other small businesses, especially ones run by single parents, and realized that maybe he could actually build something useful. Not a startup to impress investors or win press coverage, but a platform that made life easier for people like Haley. He called in a few favors, gathered a small team of engineers and designers he trusted, and spent nights in a co-working space breathing life into the idea. It would be a logistics and ordering platform tailored to small, independent flower shops and local artisan businesses, streamlining supply chains, helping manage orders, and even creating a marketplace for people to promote their services. He didn't tell Haley right away. He wanted to build something real before offering it to her. Weeks later, when the first prototype was live and the initial tests were working, he brought it to her during a quiet evening at the shop. She was arranging a display for the weekend market, and he waited until the girls had gone to bed in the back. "I've been working on something," he said, placing his laptop on the counter. "It's not just for you. But you were the reason it started." Haley looked skeptical but curious. As he walked her through the platform, showing her the features, the supplier map, the automatic pricing suggestions, and the order history dashboard, she grew quiet. When he finished, she didn't speak for a long time. "You built this, for people like me?" He nodded. "I built it because I saw how hard you worked. And I realized how many people probably struggle the same way. It's not perfect, but it's a start. If you want, I'd love for your shop to be the first one that uses it." She smiled then, not fully, not completely, but in a way that made him feel like he had just cleared another invisible wall. "I'll test it," she said. "No promises. That's all I'm asking." That night, as he packed up his things and turned to leave, Haley called his name. He turned, eyebrows raised. "You're doing okay," she said softly. And that simple sentence meant more than any approval he'd ever received from boardrooms or billionaires. It wasn't validation. It was trust, growing, slowly, finally. Nathan had never realized how much space love could take up in a life until it began filling all the small, quiet places in his. It wasn't loud or dramatic the way he used to imagine romance would be. It was gentle, woven into daily routines, into the way Sophie tugged on his sleeve when she wanted help tying her shoes, into how Lily insisted he be the one to read the bedtime story because she liked the voices he gave the characters. It was in the way Haley slowly started saying, "we," instead of "I," when she talked about the shop, and how she no longer hesitated to text him when she needed backup. They had created a rhythm, not just in logistics, but in something deeper, an unspoken agreement that they were building something fragile but worth protecting. Haley had agreed to officially onboard the flower shop onto Nathan's platform, and the changes were immediate. She was able to cut her supplier costs by almost 30%, started getting next-day deliveries, and even began offering subscription-based floral arrangements, something she had always wanted to try but never had the resources for. She still didn't give Nathan full credit. She was stubborn and proud, and he respected that, but he could tell she was proud of him. It was there in the way she looked at him when she didn't think he noticed, or the way she brushed her fingers against his shoulder as she passed him in the shop. The girls continued to flourish. They had started asking more questions, curious ones, careful ones. Why did Mr. Nate always come over? Was he staying for dinner again? Could he come to school and meet their friends? It was Haley who finally sat them down and told them, with Nathan beside her, that he was more than a friend. That he was their dad. The word didn't hang heavy the way he thought it might. It didn't spark anger or confusion. It came with wide eyes and quiet nods, and Lily, ever the bolder of the two, simply climbed into his lap and asked if that meant he had to come to every birthday party forever now. He laughed, and said yes, and she said, "Good. Because we were going to make you a crown next time." It was one of the happiest nights of his life. But it was also the beginning of something heavier, a responsibility that now had a name. Father. Not just the biological truth he'd been dancing around for months, but the full meaning of it. Someone who showed up, always. Someone who didn't break promises. Someone who stayed when it got hard. Nathan knew this, and it terrified him. The first real test came when Sophie got sick. Not the flu or a cold, but a sudden, unexplained fever that wouldn't break. Haley took her to the emergency room after a long night of watching her temperature climb, and Nathan met them there within 20 minutes, having dropped everything he was doing. It wasn't serious in the end, just a virus, but sitting beside Sophie's tiny hospital bed, holding her clammy hand while she slept, Nathan realized just how helpless fatherhood could feel. He couldn't fix it. He couldn't negotiate it or reason with it or outwork it. All he could do was be there. And he was. For every minute, every hour. Haley dozed in the corner while he watched over Sophie, eyes never leaving her. The nurse who came in during the morning mistook them for a married couple. Haley corrected her gently, but something passed between them afterward. Not tension, something closer to curiosity. A question they both weren't quite ready to ask out loud. Nathan started sleeping over more often after that. At first it was just when Haley had early deliveries or late inventory nights, and then it became a regular part of the week. He would wake to the smell of coffee brewing, Sophie already in the living room watching cartoons, Lily curled up under his arm. It felt natural, but it also made him more aware of the lingering fragility of what they had. He still hadn't told her he loved her. He didn't want to say the words just to say them. He wanted them to mean something. But every day it became harder not to let them slip out. One Saturday morning, while they were preparing for the town spring market, Haley tripped over a stack of empty buckets and fell hard against a shelf, cutting her arm. It wasn't deep, but it bled enough to need attention. Nathan rushed to her side, his hands shaking more than he wanted to admit as he helped her sit down and held a towel against the wound. "You're bleeding too much," he muttered, trying to stay calm. "I'm fine," she said through gritted teeth, but her face had gone pale. "You're not," he replied, already pulling out his phone to call urgent care. Haley reached for his hand. "Nathan. Look at me. I'm okay." His breath caught, and their eyes locked. "I'm not. You scared the hell out of me." Her hand tightened around his. "I know. But I'm still here." He didn't call urgent care. They patched it up themselves, sitting side by side in the back room, a first aid kit between them and the smell of soil in the air. She let her head rest against his shoulder, and he let the silence fill in everything they didn't say. That night, after the girls were asleep and the house was quiet, Nathan found Haley standing outside on the porch, her injured arm bandaged, her hair a mess, barefoot in the moonlight. He walked up behind her and slipped his hand into hers. "Are you still scared?" she asked him softly. "Terrified," he admitted. "But not of the life. Just of losing it." Haley turned to face him, her expression gentle. "Then don't." He kissed her then, not out of passion or timing or impulse, but out of something real and deeply earned. It wasn't fireworks. It was steadier than that. Like roots settling into soil, finding their place. And for the first time, Nathan knew he wasn't building a life alone anymore. He was finally part of something. And he would protect it with everything he had. Spring turned into summer, and with it came a softening of the spaces between everyone. The shop was now running more smoothly than ever, orders were consistent, the new platform Nathan had built was gaining traction with other local businesses, and Haley's stress over logistics and late deliveries had faded into something manageable. But more importantly, the quiet, daily chaos of family life had transformed into something whole. There was laughter in the mornings, dance parties in the kitchen, sleepy movie nights tangled in blankets on the couch, and moments when Nathan would catch Haley watching him, not with doubt or worry, but with something warm and unguarded, like trust finally taking root. One Friday afternoon, they had a picnic in the park after the girls finished their last day of kindergarten. Lily had demanded they bring balloons, and Sophie insisted on cupcakes, so they did both. Haley wore a sundress Nathan hadn't seen before, her hair tied in a ribbon the same pale yellow as the frosting on the cupcakes. She looked radiant, even after wrangling two excited girls all morning. Nathan had never been so content in silence, lying on the grass, Sophie asleep on his chest, Lily curled against Haley's lap, the smell of sunshine and grass all around them. It was one of those rare afternoons where everything slowed down, and he felt, for once, not like he was chasing time, but like he was living it. Later that night, after the girls were tucked into bed with promises of pancakes and cartoons in the morning, Haley walked into the living room and found Nathan quietly flipping through an old photo album that had been left on the coffee table. He was staring at a picture of Haley from 6 years ago, her face younger, freer, holding a newborn wrapped in a soft pink blanket. There were tears in his eyes when he looked up. "I missed all of this," he said quietly. "I missed their first laughs. Their first words. I missed seeing you become this woman who built a world out of nothing. And no matter what I do now, I can't ever get that time back." Haley sat beside him, her hand brushing his. "You're here now. That matters more than you think." He closed the album, turning to face her fully. "I know we've taken this slow. I know we've had to undo a lot of damage. But Haley, I love you. I've loved you since before I even understood what love really meant. And I don't want to just be someone in your life, I want to be your life. All of it. The hard parts. The boring parts. The parts that make you want to scream and cry and laugh and everything in between." Haley didn't speak at first. She looked at him for a long moment, like she was trying to read something beyond words. Then she leaned in and kissed him softly, like she had been waiting for the right moment to let go of everything she had held back. When they pulled apart, she whispered, "I love you too. I've been scared to say it. Not because I didn't feel it, but because I didn't want to lose it again." "You won't," he promised. "Not ever." The next morning, they took the girls to the farmer's market together, and for the first time, Nathan introduced them as his daughters. There was no hesitation, no awkwardness. Just pride in his voice and light in their eyes when he said the word. "Daddy." It felt so natural now, so true, like it had always belonged to him and he'd just taken too long to claim it. Weeks later, on a quiet Sunday, he brought them all to the botanical garden just outside the city. It was Haley's favorite place, though she rarely had time to visit. The girls ran ahead chasing butterflies, and Nathan led Haley to a small gazebo overlooking the lily pond. There, with no audience, no spectacle, he took a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it. "I'm not asking because it's the next step," he said. "I'm asking because you're the first person who's ever made me feel like home. You and the girls, you gave me back my life. And I want to spend the rest of it building something with you. No more running. No more fear. Just us, and all the messy, beautiful days ahead." Haley's eyes filled with tears as she nodded. She didn't need grand words. She just said, yes, and kissed him like she meant it. The girls, spotting the hug from a distance, ran back screaming, "What happened? Did you find a bug?" And when Haley told them they were going to be a family, officially, they danced around the gazebo and declared it the best day ever. The wedding was simple, held in the back garden of the flower shop with only close friends and a few curious neighbors. Sophie and Lily walked down the aisle as flower girls, tossing petals with wild enthusiasm, and Haley wore the same sundress she had worn at the picnic because, in her words, it felt like the beginning. Nathan couldn't stop smiling. Not when he said his vows. Not when Haley said hers. Not even when Sophie dropped the ring and Lily had to fish it out of the grass, giggling the entire time. There were no fairy tale illusions. No promises of perfection. just a shared understanding that they had already walked through the fire and still found their way back to each other. And that was more than enough. Nathan had once thought success was about status, about achievements and money and reputation. But standing in that garden, surrounded by people who knew the full story, who had seen the worst and still chosen to be part of the best, he understood that real success was simpler, deeper, and far more difficult to earn. It was love that stayed. Family that chose you back. And a life that didn't need to be perfect, just real. And finally, he had all of it. This story is not about fairy tale redemption. It's about the slow, painful, and deeply human process of earning trust back, not just from others, but from yourself. Nathan didn't deserve an easy ending, and thankfully, he didn't get one. What he did get was something much rarer, the chance to rebuild from the ground up, to prove that love isn't just a word but a series of choices made every day, especially when it's hard. Haley's strength was never in forgiving quickly. It was in protecting what mattered, in loving her daughters fiercely, and in knowing that second chances should never come cheap. She gave Nathan the space to show who he truly was, not for her sake, but for the girls who would one day look to him as a model of love, responsibility, and resilience. What makes the ending powerful isn't the proposal or the happy family photo. It's the quiet truth that healing is slow, real love is earned, and sometimes, the most unexpected reunions lead to the most lasting homes. The story doesn't shock with drama, it stuns with how ordinary love can be when it's fought for, protected, and finally, safe.
Subscribe now and hit the like button if you believe in unexpected connections. Comment below. What's the most surprising call you've ever received? The billionaire's despair and the cleaner's secret. No way! That's 3 nannies this week! Daniel Hayes paced his opulent London office, phone pressed to his ear. On the other end, his assistant stammered that the latest nanny had quit that very morning. Mr. Hayes, she said she just couldn't take the baby's crying anymore. She's never seen anything like it. Well, find another one. I don't care what it costs. Daniel slammed the phone down, running a hand through his hair. His daughter, Lily, was barely 8 months old, and since her mother's death 3 months prior, no nanny had lasted more than a few days. The baby cried incessantly, refused bottles, and wouldn't sleep at night. Meanwhile, downstairs, Sarah Miller was cleaning the living room windows. She'd arrived early that morning for the emergency cleaning job she'd been assigned. She needed the extra money to send to her grandmother in Jamaica. She'd been in London for 6 months and still felt like a stranger in Canary Wharf. The piercing cry of a baby made her pause. She looked towards the ceiling, frowning. That cry wasn't normal. It wasn't the cry of hunger or sleep she knew well from looking after her younger cousins. It was a cry of desperation. Sarah put down her cloth and climbed the stairs. The crying grew louder. She reached the first floor and saw a door ajar. She cautiously peeked in. A baby was in her cot, her face red from crying so much. Her tiny fists flailed in the air and tears streamed down her cheeks. Sarah looked around. No one else was there. "Hello?" she called out. "Is anyone here?" No one replied. The baby's crying intensified. Sarah knew she shouldn't go in. It wasn't her job. But something in that cry tore at her heart. She approached the cot slowly. "Shh, my darling. What's wrong?" The baby's nappy was soiled, and her clothes were damp with sweat. Sarah found nappies and clean clothes in the nearby dresser. With gentle movements, she changed the little one and picked her up. There, everything's going to be all right, she whispered, rocking her. The baby gradually stopped crying. Her swollen eyes slowly closed, and her breathing calmed. Sarah continued rocking her, humming a song her grandmother used to sing to her as a child. "What on earth are you doing?" Sarah startled. In the doorway stood a tall man in a dark suit, his expression furious. He was handsome, but his eyes held a coldness that intimidated her. The baby was crying, and who gave you permission to touch my daughter? Daniel strode towards her. Sarah backed away, still holding the baby. No one, sir. But she was... Give me Lily. Now. Sarah carefully handed over the baby. As soon as Daniel took her, Lily started crying again. Daniel tried to calm her, but the cries grew louder. I don't understand. She calmed down with you, Daniel murmured, looking at Sarah strangely. Her nappy was dirty, and her clothes were wet. She must be hungry, too. Daniel looked at his daughter. It was true. He hadn't noticed the state she was in. Have you looked after babies before? Yes, sir. My cousin's in Jamaica. Daniel extended his arms towards Sarah. Take her again. Sarah hesitated but took Lily. Immediately the baby quieted. Her small hands clung to Sarah's blouse, and her breathing became steady. What's your name? Daniel asked, watching the scene with disbelief. Sarah Miller. I work for the cleaning company. Where are you from? Jamaica. I arrived 6 months ago. Daniel was silent, watching his daughter completely relax in the arms of this unknown woman. 3 professional nannies had failed, but this cleaner had achieved the impossible. Prepare her bottle, he suddenly told her. It's in the kitchen, downstairs. Sarah went downstairs with Lily in her arms. In the kitchen, she prepared the bottle as she had learned with her cousins. Lily drank the milk without a fuss, her little eyes fixed on Sarah's face. Daniel watched them from the doorway. For the first time in months, his house was silent. No desperate cries, no tension in the air. What time do you finish your work here? He asked. In an hour, sir. When you're done, come to my office. I have a proposal for you. Sarah nodded, not understanding what this man could want from her. She continued feeding Lily, feeling a strange connection with this baby she had just met. What do you think Daniel's proposal will be? Is he just desperate, or is there something more? Share your predictions in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unexpected twists. A new arrangement. Sarah knocked on the office door nervously. She had finished cleaning, and now she stood in front of Daniel Hayes' study, unsure what to expect. Maybe he was going to fire her for interfering. Come in. Daniel was sitting behind an enormous desk, reviewing papers. He looked up when she entered. Have a seat, please. Sarah sat in the chair in front of the desk, her hands in her lap. The office was elegant, with books and diplomas on the walls. She felt out of place. You have experience looking after children? Daniel asked directly. Yes, sir. I looked after my young cousins in Jamaica. I also worked with a family in Kingston before coming to London. Why did you come to London? Sarah hesitated for a moment. My grandmother is sick and needs expensive medication. I can earn more money here to help her. Daniel nodded. He opened a folder and pulled out some documents. Your employer gave me your references. She says you're responsible and reliable. I try to be, sir. What happened today with my daughter? Daniel paused, as if struggling to find the words. Lily hasn't stopped crying in weeks. No nanny has been able to calm her like you did. Sarah didn't know how to reply. Daniel continued speaking. I want to offer you a job, to be Lily's full-time nanny. Me? But sir, I'm not a professional nanny. I just clean houses. I don't care if you're professional or not. I care that my daughter is well. Daniel stood up and walked to the window. I offer you to live here in the staff quarters. You'll have every weekend off, and a salary of £20,000 a month. Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. It was far more money than she earned cleaning houses. "Sir, I don't know if I can." "Why not? Looking after a baby is very different from cleaning. And if something goes wrong..." Daniel turned to her. "Look, Miss Miller, I've hired nannies with university degrees, with years of experience, with the best references. None lasted more than 3 days. You managed to make my daughter stop crying in 5 minutes." Sarah thought about her grandmother, about the medication she needed, about the money she could send. "When would I start?" "Tomorrow." "All right, I accept." The next day, Sarah arrived with a small suitcase. Daniel showed her to her room, which was simple but comfortable. Then he took her to Lily's room. "Her routine is chaotic," Daniel explained. "She eats at different times, doesn't sleep well at night. The last nanny said it was impossible." Sarah approached the cot. Lily was awake, waving her little hands. "Hello, little one. Do you remember me?" The baby made a sound that resembled a happy gurgle. Sarah picked her up, and Lily immediately calmed down. "I'm going to create a routine for her," Sarah said. "Babies need fixed schedules to feel secure." In the following days, Sarah established a strict routine. Lily had breakfast at 8, playtime at 10, a nap at 2, and dinner at 6. At night, Sarah sang soft songs until she fell asleep. The house completely changed. No more constant crying. Instead, there were giggles and baby babble. Sarah talked to Lily all the time, read her stories, and played with her on the living room floor. Daniel watched from afar. He would come home from work and find Sarah and Lily playing on the carpet, or Sarah preparing the baby's food while singing to her. It was an image he hadn't seen since Emma died. One afternoon, he came home early from work. He heard laughter from the kitchen and peeked in. Sarah had Lily in her arms and was making funny faces. The baby was laughing heartily, a sound Daniel hadn't heard in months. "Looks like you're having fun," he said from the doorway. Sarah startled. "Mr. Hayes, I didn't know you were here." "I arrived early. How was Lily today?" "Very well. She ate all her baby food and slept for 2 hours." Daniel approached and reached out for his daughter. Lily looked at him with curiosity, but didn't cry. When he picked her up, "She seems calmer," Daniel murmured. "Babies sense when adults are nervous," Sarah said. "If you're calm, she will be too." Daniel looked at Sarah with a strange expression. It was the first time anyone had spoken to him like that since his wife's death. Without judgment, just honesty. "Thank you," he simply said. Sarah nodded and continued preparing Lily's dinner. But she felt something different in the air, a silent connection she didn't dare to name. Do you think Daniel is starting to see Sarah as more than just an employee? What kind of challenges do you foresee in their unique living arrangement? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more captivating developments. A storm, a shared vulnerability. It was Friday night when the power went out across the entire area. Sarah was bathing Lily when everything went dark. "Oh my God!" she exclaimed, holding the baby firmly. She heard quick footsteps on the stairs. "Sarah, are you all right?" It was Daniel's voice, with a tone of concern he rarely showed. "Yes, we're fine, but Lily's in the bath." Daniel appeared in the bathroom doorway with his mobile phone flashlight. "Let me help you." Between the two of them, they got Lily out of the water and wrapped her in a towel. The baby didn't seem scared, rather curious about the shadows dancing on the walls. "It must be a general power cut," Daniel said, checking his phone. "They say it could last several hours." They went down to the living room. Daniel lit some candles he found in the kitchen. The golden light filled the space, creating an intimate atmosphere neither of them expected. Sarah put Lily on her blanket on the carpet. The baby played with her feet, making happy cooing sounds. "She seems content," Daniel commented, sitting on the floor near them. Babies aren't bothered by the dark as much as we are. They fell silent, watching Lily. The candles flickered gently, and the only sound was the baby's gurgles. Do you miss Jamaica? Daniel suddenly asked. Sarah looked at him, surprised. It was the first time he'd asked her a personal question. Every day, especially my grandmother. How is she? She's not well. She has diabetes and heart problems. Doctors say she needs surgery, but it's very expensive. Daniel nodded, looking at the candle flames. My wife was also sick for a long time before she died. Sarah remained silent. Daniel never talked about his dead wife. What was she like? Sarah asked carefully. Daniel sighed deeply. Emma was full of life. She always had a smile. She always saw the good side of things. She was the complete opposite of me. Is that why you fell in love with her? Perhaps. Or perhaps she fell in love with me, despite how I am. Emily started to yawn. Sarah picked her up and began to rock her gently. You're not as bad as you think, Sarah said. You're just hurting. Daniel looked at her fixedly. In the candlelight, Sarah's eyes shone with a warmth he had forgotten existed. How can you say that? You barely know me. I know men who hurt because they want to hurt, and I know those who hurt because they're scared. You're the second kind. Sarah's words touched him in a place he had kept closed since Emma's death. He moved a little closer to her. What am I afraid of? Of feeling something again. That if you let someone else in, you might lose them again. Daniel was speechless. This woman who came from another country, who cleaned houses to survive, had seen inside him better than anyone in months. Lily's asleep, Sarah whispered. Careful. She carried the baby to her cot. When she returned, Daniel was still sitting on the floor, looking at the candles. Are you afraid of anything? He asked. Sarah sat down again, this time closer. Of many things. Of not being able to help my grandmother. Of not finding my place in this country. Of getting too attached to people I can't have. The last sentence hung in the air between them. Daniel looked at her and understood perfectly what she meant. Sarah, don't say anything, she interrupted. We both know this can't happen. But Daniel had already moved closer. His hand touched Sarah's cheek, gently. And what if I don't care what can, or can't, happen? Sarah closed her eyes at the contact. She had fought against these feelings for weeks. His wife died only 3 months ago. I work for you. We're from different worlds. Right now, none of that matters to me. Daniel leaned towards her. Sarah didn't pull away. Their lips met in a kiss that was soft at first, full of doubts and questions. But then it grew more intense, as if both of them had been waiting for that moment without knowing it. When they separated, their foreheads were touching. Both were breathing fast. This is wrong, Sarah whispered. I know. It could be very complicated. I know. But neither of them moved. They stayed like that, holding that intimate moment in the candlelight, knowing that when the electricity returned, everything would change. And they were right. What do you think will happen when the lights come back on? Will Daniel and Sarah acknowledge what happened, or will they pretend it never occurred? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the inevitable next chapter. The Reckoning and The Drive to Yorkshire. The next day, when the lights returned, Daniel was back to his usual cold and distant self. He treated Sarah like any other employee, as if the kiss had never happened. But both knew that something had changed forever between them. 3 weeks had passed since the night of the power cut. Daniel acted as if nothing had happened, but Sarah noticed how he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. His eyes said one thing, but his behavior said another entirely. That Tuesday, Daniel had left early for a business meeting. Sarah took the opportunity to deep clean the master bedroom, something she had been putting off. Lily was sleeping in her cot, so she had time. In the wardrobe, she found a cardboard box that was covered in dust. She carefully pulled it out and placed it on the bed. Inside were photos, letters, and personal items that had clearly belonged to Emma. Sarah hesitated whether she should go through the box. It wasn't her place, but as she cleaned around, Lily woke up and started to cry. She picked her up and brought her into the room so she wouldn't be alone. Lily saw the open box and stretched out her little hands towards the shiny objects. Before Sarah could stop her, the baby grabbed a black mobile phone from the bottom of the box. "No, my love, that's not a toy." Sarah tried to take the phone away, but Lily started pressing random buttons. Suddenly, the screen lit up. "Oh no, I hope it's not damaged." Sarah checked the phone to see if it was all right. The battery was low, but it worked. On the screen, several videos appeared. The most recent one was dated 2 months before Emma's death. Unintentionally, Lily touched the video, and it began to play. On the screen appeared a beautiful woman with brown hair and green eyes. She was sitting in the same room where Sarah now found herself. "If anyone is watching this, I'm probably not here anymore," the woman said in the video. Sarah froze. It was Emma, Daniel's deceased wife. "Daniel, if it's you who finds this video, forgive me for not telling you the truth sooner." Sarah knew she should turn off the phone, that she had no right to see this, but the next words chilled her to the bone. "Lily is not our biological daughter. I adopted her without telling you anything." The video continued. Emma explained how she had found Lily in an orphanage, how she had immediately fallen in love with her, how she had falsified the papers to make it seem like the baby was theirs. "I was afraid to tell you, Daniel. Afraid you wouldn't love her if you knew she wasn't yours. Afraid you would leave me. I know it was wrong, but I don't regret it. Lily is our daughter in every way that matters." The video ended. Sarah sat in silence, holding Lily, who played, oblivious to what she had just revealed. What should she do? Pretend she had never seen the video? Tell Daniel the truth? That afternoon, when Daniel returned from work, Sarah couldn't act normally. She was nervous, distracted. During dinner, she spilled Lily's juice twice. "Are you all right?" Daniel asked. "You look strange." "I'm fine, sir." But she wasn't fine. Throughout the night, Sarah agonized over the matter. The next day, she made a decision. She waited until Daniel returned from work and was relaxed. Lily was already asleep. "Mr. Hayes, I need to talk to you." Daniel looked up from his newspaper. "What's wrong?" Sarah pulled the mobile phone from her pocket. "Yesterday, while cleaning your room, I found this." Lily was playing with it and accidentally activated a video. Daniel's expression immediately changed. "That's Emma's phone." "What video?" "I think you should see it yourself." Sarah handed him the phone. Daniel took it with trembling hands and played the video. Sarah stood there, watching Daniel's face change as he listened to his dead wife's words. When it ended, Daniel stared at the screen in silence for several minutes. "This is a lie," he finally said in a hoarse voice. "This is a lie," he shouted, standing abruptly. "Lily is my daughter." "Sir, the video seems real." "You don't know anything. Nothing." Daniel paced like a caged animal. "Why are you showing me this? What do you want from me?" "I don't want anything. I just thought you had a right to know the truth." "The truth? The truth is you're trying to manipulate me." Daniel's words were like slaps. Sarah felt tears beginning to well up. "How can you say that? Maybe you edited the video. Maybe you made it all up to I don't know what." "Mr. Hayes, I would never do something like that." "Of course you would. You've been acting strangely ever since that night. You thought you could use this to manipulate me." Sarah could no longer hold back her tears. "I just wanted you to know the truth. I thought you had a right. The only right you have is to do your job and keep your mouth shut." Daniel approached her furiously. "I want you to leave. Right now. I never want to see you again. What? You heard me. Pack your things and get out of my house. Sarah stood there, trembling. Daniel stomped upstairs. Half an hour later, Sarah came down with her suitcase. Daniel didn't come out to say goodbye. Before leaving, she peeked into Lily's room and gently kissed her forehead. Take care, my darling. I'm going to miss you very much. And she left, heartbroken, unsure if she had done the right thing. What a devastating turn. Do you think Daniel will ever find out the truth about Emma's video? Will Emily get her treatment? Share your anxious thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the full truth to unfold. A glimmer of hope in a new town. Sarah arrived in Birmingham with only $30 in her pocket and her heart in pieces. She had taken the first bus out of London, regardless of the destination. She just wanted to be away from Daniel, away from the pain, away from everything. At the bus station, she saw an advertisement in the newspaper. Housekeeper wanted. Small house, quiet family. She dialed the number from a public phone. Hello? I'm calling about the newspaper ad. Is the job still available? Yes. Can you come today? The Harrison family's house was the complete opposite of Daniel's mansion. It was small, simple, but full of warmth. Mrs. Eleanor Harrison, the lady of the house, was an elderly woman with kind eyes. I have 2 grown children, and my husband, Mrs. Harrison explained. It's not much work, just cleaning and cooking. Do you have references? Sarah gave her the number of her former boss at the cleaning company. Luckily, she had remained on good terms with her. You can start tomorrow. I'll give you £5,000 a month and food included. Does that sound good? It was much less money than she earned with Daniel, but Sarah nodded. She needed to work, and above all, she needed to be in a place where no one would shout at her, where no one would accuse her of lying. The first few days were difficult. At night, Sarah cried, thinking of Lily. Was she all right? Had Daniel found another nanny? Did the baby miss her? Mrs. Harrison noticed her sadness. What's wrong, dear? You look very sad. I had to leave a job where I looked after a baby. I miss her very much. Was she your daughter? No, but I loved her as if she were. Mrs. Harrison placed a hand on her shoulder. Love doesn't need papers, dear. If you loved her, she loved you too. Meanwhile, in London, Daniel was living his own hell. After Sarah left, he had hired an emergency nanny agency. In 1 week, 4 different nannies had come and gone. Lily wouldn't stop crying. She refused food, wouldn't sleep, and seemed to be looking for something she couldn't find. Daniel himself had tried to calm her, but it was impossible. Mr. Hayes, the agency director told him over the phone, my most experienced nannies say they've never seen a case like this. The baby seems traumatized. Traumatized by what? We don't know. Did anything traumatic happen in the house and any significant changes? Daniel knew exactly what had happened. Lily missed Sarah, but his pride wouldn't let him admit it. One night, Lily cried for 4 hours straight. Daniel held her, gave her a bottle, changed her nappy, but nothing worked. He was desperate. What do you want? He yelled at the baby. Tell me what you want. Emily only cried harder. Daniel sat on the floor of the room, holding his daughter, and for the first time in months, he also began to cry. You miss her, don't you? He whispered. You miss Sarah. That same night, Daniel took Emma's mobile phone and re-watched the video. This time, he watched it completely, without the rage he had felt before. He observed every detail, listened to every word. The next day, he took the phone to a video expert. I want you to analyze this video. I need to know if it's real or if it was edited. It'll cost you £1,000 for the full analysis. I don't care about the price. 2 days later, the technician called him. Mr. Hayes, I have the results. The video is completely authentic. There are no signs of editing, manipulation, or digital alteration. Daniel hung up the phone and sat in his office for hours. Emma had lied for years. Lily was not their biological daughter. But more importantly, he had treated the only person who had been honest with him terribly. Sarah hadn't lied. She hadn't tried to manipulate him. She had only shown him the truth, no matter how painful it was. In Birmingham, Sarah had found some peace. The Harrison family treated her well. The work was quiet, and little by little, she had begun to heal. But at night, when she was alone in her small room, she still thought of Lily. One afternoon, while cleaning the living room, her phone rang. It was a London number she didn't recognize. "Sarah Miller?" "Yes, who is this?" "I'm Dr. Thompson, pediatrician. I'm treating one of your patients. Well, she was your patient, Lily Hayes." Sarah's heart raced. "What's wrong with Lily? Is she okay?" "The baby is physically well, but she has symptoms of severe infant depression. Her father gave me your number. He said you were her nanny." "Yes, sis, but I don't work there anymore. Miss Miller, the baby isn't eating well, isn't sleeping, cries constantly. It's as if she's in mourning. Did anything traumatic happen before you left?" Sarah closed her eyes. It pained her to know that Lily was suffering. "Nothing traumatic happened. I just left suddenly." Babies form very strong bonds. If you were her primary caregiver, it's possible she misses you very much. After hanging up, Sarah was left thinking. Lily needed her, but Daniel had been clear. He didn't want to see her again. However, that night she couldn't sleep, thinking of the baby she had learned to love as her own daughter. What an emotional twist! Do you think Sarah will go back to Lily, even after Daniel's harsh words? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the ultimate emotional turning point. A difficult reunion. Daniel drove for 4 hours from London to Birmingham. He had gotten Sarah's address through her former boss at the cleaning company. The journey gave him time to think about what he was going to say, but when he arrived in front of the Harrison family's house, he realized there weren't enough words. He knocked on the door nervously. An elderly lady opened it. "Yes? Good afternoon. I'm looking for Sarah Miller. I'm Daniel Hayes." Mrs. Harrison looked him up and down. The expensive suit, the elegant watch, the shiny shoes. This was the man who had made Sarah cry for weeks. "What do you want with her?" "I need to talk to her. It's important." "She doesn't want to talk to you." "Please, madam. It's about Lily, the baby she looked after." Mrs. Harrison hesitated for a moment. "Wait here." She closed the door and went to find Sarah, who was in the garden hanging laundry. "My dear, there's a man at the door. He says his name is Daniel Hayes." Sarah dropped the shirt she was holding. "Daniel was here?" "He says he wants to talk about the baby." Sarah froze. Part of her wanted to run to the door, but another part reminded her of the cruel words he had said to her. "Tell him to leave." "Are you sure? He looks very worried." Sarah closed her eyes. She thought of Lily, of the doctor's call. "All right, but stay close, please." Sarah went to the door. Daniel was standing on the pavement with his hands in his pockets. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Hello, Sarah. What do you want, Mr. Hayes?" The Mr. Hayes hurt him more than he expected. Before, she used to call him Daniel when they were alone. "I need to talk to you. With you. We already talked. Very clearly, in fact. I have nothing more to hear." The words came out with more pain than Sarah wanted to show. Daniel realized. "You were right about the video. I had it verified by an expert. It's real." Sarah crossed her arms. And I was wrong. I was wrong about you. I was wrong yelling at you. I was wrong kicking you out of the house. Did you come all this way just to tell me that?" Daniel sighed deeply. "Lily is not well. Very unwell. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. She cries constantly. The doctor says she has depression. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she tried to remain firm. Get another nanny. She doesn't want anyone else. She misses you. And I miss you, too. The words hung in the air. Sarah wiped her tears with the back of her hand. She misses me, or she misses the employee who did her job well. I miss you, Sarah. The woman I kissed that night. The woman who made me feel alive again. But the next day, you pretended nothing happened. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. I was scared. Scared of betraying Emma's memory. Scared of feeling something for someone else. Scared of being hurt again. And now? Now I know I'm already hurting myself. And I'm hurting Lily. And I hurt you for no reason. Sarah remained silent for a long moment. What exactly do you want, Mr. Hayes? I want you to come back. Emily needs you. And you? Daniel looked her directly in the eyes. I need you too. Sarah shook her head. It's not that easy. You can't just come here, say some nice words, and expect everything to go back to how it was. I know. That's why I didn't come to ask you to come back as an employee. Then what? Daniel took a deep breath. I came to ask you to come back as part of the family, as the woman who might become my wife, if you give me the chance. Sarah looked at him in surprise. Are you mad? Do you think after how you treated me I can trust you? No. But I hope you'll give me the chance to earn it back. You called me a liar. You yelled at me. You kicked me out of your house like I was trash. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life regretting that. Sarah remained thoughtful. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately, but the hurt part needed more. If I come back, she finally said, things are going to be different. Different how? No more secrets. No more treating me like an employee one day and a woman the next. No more yelling at me when you're angry. And no more pretending I don't exist when it suits you. Daniel nodded. Agreed. And I want us to go slowly. Very slowly. First, I need to see that you've really changed, not just hear it. Sounds fair to me. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. All right, I'll come back. But for Emily, not for you. Daniel smiled for the first time in weeks. All right, for now, that's enough. Sarah went in to pack her things, wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life, or giving herself the chance to be happy she had always dreamed of. Do you think Sarah is making the right choice to go back? Can Daniel truly change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the heartwarming finale. Healing wounds. Building trust. The drive back to London was silent. Daniel drove, focused on the road, while Sarah looked out the window, nervous about what she would find. During the trip, Daniel told her about Lily's condition. The last nanny quit yesterday. She said she'd never seen a baby so sad. She hasn't eaten well in weeks. Has she lost weight? A little. The doctor says if she doesn't improve soon, they'll have to hospitalize her. Sarah felt a pang in her chest. The idea that Lily was suffering so much tore at her. When they arrived at the house, Daniel carried Sarah's suitcase. Your room is still the same. I didn't touch anything. They went upstairs. Sarah could hear Lily's weak cries from her room. It was a different cry from what she remembered, more muffled, as if the baby no longer had the strength to ask for help. Hello, my love. Did you miss me? Sarah approached slowly and picked up Lily. The baby clung to her immediately, as if afraid she would disappear again. Her tiny hands tangled in Sarah's hair. Oh, my darling, you're so thin. Lily wasn't crying, but she wasn't smiling either. She just clung to Sarah, breathing in her familiar scent. Are you hungry, precious? Sarah went down to the kitchen with Lily in her arms. She prepared her favorite baby food, the one she had always liked. Daniel watched them from the doorway. Come, my love, let's eat. At first, Lily refused the food as she had been doing. But when Sarah began to sing the song she always sang to her during meals, the baby slowly opened her mouth. That's good. Little by little. Lily ate half her baby food, more than she had eaten in days. Then she fell asleep in Sarah's arms. It's incredible, Daniel murmured. With you, she's a different baby. Children need to feel secure. When they feel abandoned, they stop trusting. The words had a double meaning, and Daniel understood perfectly. The following days were about slow reconstruction. Sarah re-established Lily's routine, but this time she was more careful. The baby had developed separation anxiety and didn't want Sarah to leave her side for a moment. It's normal, Sarah explained to Daniel. She's afraid I'll leave again. It will take time for her to trust. Daniel had also changed. He was no longer the cold, distant man he once was. He would come home from work and ask about Lily, play with her on the floor, even try to feed her. It's so hard for me, he admitted one afternoon, after Lily refused the bottle he offered her. I don't know how to talk to her. Talk to her like you would talk to anyone you love. Babies understand more than we think. One night, Sarah heard noises in Lily's room. She got up and found Daniel sitting on the floor next to the cot, talking to the baby in a low voice. I know I'm not your biological father, but I want to be. I want to look after you, protect you, watch you grow up. I don't know if you'll ever stop being afraid of me, but I'm going to try. Lily looked at him with her big eyes, not crying. Daniel extended a finger towards her, and to his surprise, Lily grabbed it with her tiny hand. See? Sarah whispered from the doorway. She loves you too. Daniel startled. He hadn't known she was there. Relationships are built with time and patience. You're doing things right. That night, for the first time since Sarah had returned, they had dinner together after Lily fell asleep. Daniel had cooked, though the result was disastrous. I think I burned the eggs, he said, scratching his head. Sarah laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd heard since her return. They're a little golden. They're black. Well, yes, they're black. They laughed together, and for a moment things felt normal. But when their gazes met, the tension returned. Daniel, No, she interrupted. Not yet. I need time. Daniel nodded, though he clearly wanted to say more. How much time? I don't know, until I feel I can trust you completely. What can I do to earn that trust? Sarah thought for a moment. Keep being the man I see with Emily, the one who talks to her with affection, the one who is patient, the one who tries to understand. I like that man. The other one, the one who yells and accuses, that one scares me. That man no longer exists. Prove it to me, not with words, with actions. Daniel extended his hand across the table. Sarah looked at it for a moment and then placed hers on top, briefly. We'll go step by step, she said. Step by step. It was a new beginning, fragile, full of care, but real. The three of them were learning to be a family, each at their own pace, each healing their own wounds. Do you think Daniel can truly earn Sarah's trust back? What actions do you think he needs to take? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the next emotional milestone. A family takes shape. 3 months had passed since Sarah's return. The house had regained its harmony. Lily no longer cried constantly. She had gained weight, and her laughter filled the spaces that had once been silent. But more importantly, she had started to warm up to Daniel. One morning, as Sarah prepared breakfast, Lily crawled towards Daniel and clung to his trousers. It was the first time she had sought his attention of her own accord. "Daddy, Daddy!" Lily babbled. Daniel froze. Lily had said her first word, and it had been Daddy. His eyes filled with tears as he picked up the baby. "Did you hear that?" he asked Sarah. "I heard it. There's no longer any doubt about who her dad is." That afternoon, Daniel received a call in his office that would change everything. "Mr. Hayes, It's about the merger proposal with the Japanese company, his assistant said. They need an answer today. Daniel had been postponing that decision for weeks. The merger would mean a lot of money, expanding the business internationally, but it would also mean moving to Tokyo for at least 2 years. Tell them I need until tomorrow. That night, during dinner, Daniel looked distracted. What's wrong? Sarah asked. You're very quiet. I was offered a very big deal, but I'd have to move to Japan. Sarah stopped eating. For how long? 2 years, maybe more. And what are you going to do? Daniel looked at Lily, who was playing with her food, oblivious to the conversation that could change her life. I don't know. It's a lot of money. It would secure Lily's future. Lily's future is here, with the people who love her. Could you come with me? Sarah looked at him, surprised. How am I going to go to Japan? I don't even speak Japanese. I don't know anyone there. You could learn the language. I'd help you with everything. Are you asking me to leave everything to follow you? Daniel realized how it sounded. It's not like that. It's just, this deal could change everything. Change what? Aren't we happy here? Yes, but money and business are more important. Sarah got up from the table and started clearing the plates. I didn't say that. You didn't need to. That night they went to bed without speaking. Daniel stayed awake, thinking about the proposal. It was the opportunity of his professional life, but it would mean separating himself from everything he had built with Sarah and Lily. The next day, Daniel left for the office early without breakfast. Sarah stayed home, playing with Lily in the garden. What do you think, my love? She asked the baby. Is your dad going to leave us for his business? Lily only laughed and continued playing with her blocks. In the office, Daniel had the proposal on his desk. His partners had been pressuring him all morning. It's the perfect opportunity, Daniel, said Richard, his main partner. With this merger, we become an international company. And what if I don't accept? The offer won't be available forever. The Japanese have other options. Daniel thought of Sarah angrily washing dishes, of Lily saying, Daddy, for the first time, of the quiet evenings the three of them had dinner together. Give me 1 more hour. He left the office and drove home. He found Sarah giving Lily lunch. Both looked up when he entered. Have you decided? Sarah asked without looking at him. Yes. Daniel sat opposite them. I'm going to reject the proposal. Sarah looked at him, surprised. Seriously? Really? I realized something this morning. I've spent my whole life chasing the next deal, the next success, more money. But I've never been as happy as I've been these last few months. You won't regret it? Maybe. But I know I'd regret it more if I lost you both. Sarah smiled for the first time in 2 days. Are you sure? It's a lot of money. Money can be earned in other ways. But a family like this, that's not found twice in a lifetime. Daniel moved closer to her and took her hands. Sarah, these past few months you've taught me what truly matters. I don't want to be the man I was before, who only thought about work. I want to be the man who deserves to be with you. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. What are you telling me? Daniel knelt in front of her, pulling a small box from his pocket. I'm telling you that I love you, that I love the life we've built together, that I want Lily to have a mom who adores her, and that I want to have a wife who makes me a better person every day. He opened the box. Inside was a simple but beautiful ring. Marry me, Sarah, not as an employee, not as a nanny, but as my equal, as my partner, as the woman who chose to stay when I didn't deserve it. Sarah was openly crying. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will marry you. Lily applauded from her high chair, as if she understood something important had just happened. Daniel stood up and kissed Sarah, a kiss full of promises and future. When they separated, the three hugged. When? Sarah asked. Whenever you want. But I'd like it to be in Jamaica with your grandmother present. Would you really go all the way to Jamaica to get married? I'd go to the ends of the earth to marry you. What an incredible proposal. How do you feel about Daniel choosing family over a billion-pound deal? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the beautiful conclusion. A love story for the ages. 2 years later. Emily, no! The eggs don't go on the floor. Sarah laughed as she watched her 3-year-old daughter try to help with breakfast. The little one had insisted she wanted to cook like Mum, but her idea of cooking involved throwing ingredients all over the kitchen. "I help, Mummy," Emily said in her sweet little voice, climbing onto a chair to reach the hob. "Yes, my love, you're helping a lot." Daniel came downstairs in his pajamas, hair disheveled and yawning. He no longer wore elegant suits on Saturday mornings. Now he preferred to stay home with his family. What are the most beautiful chefs in the world cooking? "Daddy!" Emily shrieked, running towards him with hands full of flour. "We're making pancakes!" Daniel picked her up, not caring that she covered him in flour. "Pancakes, and I can help?" "Yes." Sarah smiled, watching the scene. Daniel had changed so much that sometimes he seemed like a completely different person. He was no longer the cold, distant man she had known. Now he was a dad who played on the floor, who sang silly songs, who stayed up when Emily had nightmares. "Be careful," Sarah warned him. "Last time you tried to cook, you almost set the house on fire." "That was once, and the smoke wasn't that bad. It was bad enough that the fire brigade came." "Details," Daniel said, winking at her. He moved closer to her and kissed her cheek, still holding Emily. "Good morning, Mrs. Hayes." "Good morning, Mr. Hayes." They still liked calling each other that sometimes, reminding them that they were no longer boss and employee, but husband and wife. The wedding had been exactly as Sarah had dreamed. Simple, in her grandmother's garden in Kingston, Jamaica. Mrs. Davies had traveled from Birmingham to be there. Emily had walked down the aisle with the rings, tripping twice, but arriving with a huge smile. "What do you want to do today?" Daniel asked. "Park!" Emily shrieked immediately. "Not the park again," Sarah complained. "We went twice yesterday." "But Mummy, I like the swing." "You like everything at the park." Daniel put Emily down and went to help with the pancakes. He tried to flip one, but it broke in half. "I think I need more practice. I think you need a lot of cooking lessons. Will you teach me? I've been teaching you for 2 years. You're a lost cause." They laughed together. Emily took advantage of them, not looking to dip her little finger in the batter and taste it. "Emily," Sarah admonished her, "what have I told you about putting your hands in the food?" "Not to do it," Emily replied, her mouth full, completely unrepentant. "This child is just like you," Sarah told Daniel. "Never listens." "I never listen? Who washed the dishes last night without being asked?" "After I told you 3 times to wash them." "But I washed them!" Sarah threw some flour at him. Daniel threw it back. In seconds, all 3 were covered in flour, laughing wildly. "Flour war!" Emily shrieked, throwing handfuls in the air. "No, no, no," Sarah said, but it was too late. The kitchen looked like a flour bomb had exploded. When they finished laughing, they sat on the kitchen floor, white from head to toe. "Now we have to clean all this," Sarah sighed. "Later," Daniel said. "Right now, I just want to be here with you both." "Even covered in flour?" "Especially covered in flour." Emily snuggled between the 2 of them. "I love you all very much, and we love you very much, my love," Sarah told her, kissing her forehead. Daniel looked at both of them, his wife and his daughter, and felt that quiet happiness he had learned to value. It wasn't a perfect life. They had difficult days, they argued sometimes. Emily had tantrums, he still burned the food, and Sarah still worried too much about everything. But it was their life. They had built it together, step by step, decision by decision, forgiveness by forgiveness. "What are you thinking about?" Sarah asked him. "That we're the weirdest family I know." "Weird how?" "A Jamaican, a stubborn Brit, and an adopted child who brought us together without knowing it. And does that bother you?" Daniel smiled and hugged them tighter. "On the contrary, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world." Outside, it began to rain softly. The three of them stayed there, on the kitchen floor, covered in flour, listening to the rain. It wasn't a perfect family, but it was perfect for them. And that, definitively, was enough. Were you as touched as we were by the story of Sarah, Daniel, and little Emily? This beautiful journey reminds us that families aren't always formed in traditional ways, but are built with love, patience, and second chances. From Jamaica to London, passing through Birmingham and Yorkshire, this story teaches us that true love knows no borders or social differences. If this story touched your heart as it did ours, don't forget to like this video and share it with that special person who believes in second chances. We want to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from? Leave us your comment and tell us what was your favorite part of this emotional story. Was it when Sarah first calmed Lily, the moment of the kiss by candlelight, or perhaps the marriage proposal? Your opinion is very important to us. If you liked this content and want to see more stories like this, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell to not miss any of our upcoming tales full of love, drama, and happy endings.